Financial Independence with Grace. Stand strong on your own terms. Chapter 1. The Quiet Power of Standing on Your Own. True independence, the kind that settles deep in your bones, isn't about building a fortress. It isn't a harsh declaration that you must face the world entirely alone, cut off from support and connection. If we think of self-reliance only in those terms, as isolation, we miss its quiet, profound power. We misunderstand its truest, most graceful nature. Real independence is something far more beautiful. It is the deep, steady peace that comes from knowing, with absolute certainty, that you are a person you can rely on. It is the clarity that you are a complete, functional whole. Any connection, partnership, or support you invite into your life is an addition to your well-being, not a life-or-death necessity for your survival. This is a subtle yet monumental shift in how you move through the world. Many people confuse financial independence with emotional toughness. They imagine the journey requires a kind of rugged, unyielding spirit that dismisses softness and connection. They think that standing strong means standing apart, but that is a deeply unbalanced and unappealing view. We are, by nature, beings who seek partnership. We thrive in shared purpose and community. To deny that impulse entirely is to deny a core part of being human. The goal, then, is not to eliminate your need for others, but to eliminate your dependence on them for your foundational security and self-worth. The inner scale of security. Think of your personal security as a finely balanced scale. On one side is reliance on external sources, a job's consistent salary, a partner's financial contribution, or the emotional validation of peers. On the other side is self-reliance, your own skills, your ability to make sound decisions, your internal emotional reserves, and your controlled financial freedom. For many years, perhaps for most of your life, that scale might have been heavily tipped toward the external side. When that happens, your sense of well-being is constantly subject to the shifting moods of the economy, your employer's choices, or a partner's changing mind. You feel unsettled because your foundational stability is outside of your control. True independence is the slow, deliberate, and graceful process of bringing that scale back into perfect equilibrium. It means steadily moving weight from the external side to the internal side until the balance point rests perfectly in the center, held by your own strength. The quiet power of standing on your own is the feeling you get when that scale finally settles. There is no frantic teetering, no sudden drops, just a steady, calm, centered poise. When you achieve this balance, you are no longer making decisions from a place of fear or need. You are making them from a place of confident choice and deep alignment. This is the grace we seek. It is the ability to navigate life with a sense of lightness, because you carry your own security within you. What independence truly buys you? The common narrative around financial freedom often focuses on what money can acquire: early retirement, exotic travel, or luxury items. While those things can be lovely, they are merely the accessories of independence, not its core reward. The truest, deepest gift of self-reliance is the peace of mind it grants you. It buys you the freedom to choose your words carefully, knowing you don't have to compromise your voice for a paycheck. It buys you the dignity to walk away from anything that diminishes your spirit, whether that's an unfulfilling job or an unequal partnership, because you know you can provide for yourself. It buys you the time to make decisions slowly, thoughtfully, and with a sense of internal counsel, rather than rushing from a place of panic or obligation. And perhaps most profoundly, true independence buys you the capacity for healthier relationships. Consider this: when you are entirely reliant on another person for your safety, your interactions are inevitably tinged with anxiety. You may find yourself holding back, avoiding important conversations, or agreeing to arrangements not out of love but out of financial necessity. That is not a balanced partnership. It erodes the dignity and ultimately destroys the beauty and equality of the bond. When you stand on your own, you enter every connection, friendship, partnership, family, as a whole person meeting another whole person. The relationship is based on genuine affection, shared values, and mutual respect, not on a financial dependency that silently holds the keys to your life. The quiet power is that you finally get to love and connect freely, without any hidden agenda of necessity. The gentle inventory of awareness. The first step in this journey is simple awareness. We can't adjust the scales of balance if we don't know where the weight currently lies. This requires a gentle, honest, and non-judgmental inventory of your current state. Take a moment to reflect on your life. Where do you feel a pang of anxiety when you think about making a change? Where does the thought of a particular person leaving your life or a specific income stream drying up cause a cold knot of fear? These pressure points are simply signposts, showing you precisely where your power has been silently transferred to an external source. Is your anxiety tied to your work? Perhaps you fear speaking up or negotiating because you feel you couldn't survive for 6 months without that specific salary. That's a signal that your stability is too narrowly defined by that single employer. Is it tied to a relationship? Perhaps you tolerate emotional slights or unequal contributions because the thought of handling the living costs alone feels overwhelming. That is a signal that your emotional security is built on a foundation of financial dependence. This inventory isn't meant to cause shame or self-recrimination. It's meant to provide clarity. Clarity is the necessary raw material of graceful change. When you see clearly, you can act with precision and poise. The act of seeing things as they are, the beautiful parts and the unbalanced parts, is the first, and often the most difficult, step toward true self-possession. It requires a quiet courage, the courage to look at the truth without flinching, releasing the harsh narrative. We must also challenge the harsh narrative that often surrounds the concept of doing it alone. This story often whispers that relying on yourself means you are somehow defective, or that you have failed to secure the perfect supportive partner. This is a profound misunderstanding of self-reliance. Standing on your own terms is not a consolation prize for a failed connection. It is the ultimate prerequisite for a truly successful one. It's the foundation that allows you to choose connection from a place of internal abundance, not personal scarcity. We must trade the harsh, solitary image of the rugged individualist for a more graceful one. The image of a balanced person, someone who is fully grounded in their own stability and capable of reaching out to the world from that place of inner calm. Imagine a strong, beautiful tree, standing tall and symmetrical. Its roots are deep and strong. They draw nourishment from the earth beneath, ensuring its survival regardless of the weather. Because its roots are secure, it can freely extend its branches, offering shade and beauty to the world. It doesn't need the world to hold it up. It stands effortlessly on its own. Your independence is your root system. It is the hidden strength that allows you to be generous, calm, and open in your external life. When your financial roots are deep, you can be more giving with your time, your attention, and your resources, because you are offering from a place of overflow, not worry. Cultivating the inner calm. To begin cultivating this quiet power, start small. Look for areas in your daily life where you can practice self-trust. If you always defer a decision about where to eat or what to watch to a partner, try making a confident choice just once. If you always rely on a coworker to take the lead on a task, step up and confidently lay out the plan yourself. These small acts of taking the reins in non-financial areas of your life are practice for the big ones. They build the muscle of self-direction, the inner compass that is absolutely essential for financial freedom. The rhythm of self-reliance should feel steady, like a slow, deep breath. It is a commitment to learning the skills, making the plans, and saving the reserves that ensure your well-being is always truly in your hands. This journey is about finding an inner sense of poise. Poise is the elegance of stability. It is the ability to remain upright and graceful even when the ground beneath you shifts unexpectedly. It is not about never needing help. It is about rarely needing rescue. This is the power we are aiming for. The quiet confidence of knowing that whatever life throws your way, a sudden expense, a professional transition, a personal challenge, you possess the internal resources, both financial and emotional, to meet it with composure. You are not aiming for a lonely mountain peak. You are aiming for a serene, well-tended garden within yourself, where everything you need to thrive is already being nurtured by your own hand. This journey of independence is an act of deep self-respect. It is the ultimate commitment to your own worth and your own future. And when you stand this strong on your own terms, every connection you make is a beautiful choice, and every step you take is a stride of authentic grace. You are already capable of this quiet power. Now, let's begin to uncover it. Take a moment now to reflect on one decision you can make in the next 24 hours to practice self-reliance. A small, confident choice that proves to yourself, in a quiet way, that you are perfectly capable of directing your own path. Chapter 2: Breaking Free from Dependence. It is entirely natural to lean on others. We are fundamentally wired for connection, and a balanced life requires a healthy, reciprocal flow of support, advice, and care. The difficulty isn't the leaning itself. The problem is when that leaning turns into clinging. It is when genuine support transforms subtly into a system of dependence that leaves one side feeling imbalanced, obligated, or quietly resentful. This imbalance is often difficult to see at first. It rarely announces itself with a sudden crisis. Instead, it creeps in like a persistent, gentle tilt, gradually shifting the equilibrium of your life or your relationships until you suddenly realize you are holding up far too much. Or, conversely, you cannot stand up at all without external assistance. Dependence, whether it is financial, emotional, or based in decision-making, is the quiet trade of your personal power for a sense of temporary, easy comfort. It is the decision to let someone else carry the full weight simply because carrying it yourself feels too heavy in the moment. But the long-term cost is always high. It is the steady erosion of your confidence and the dulling of your self-trust. Identifying the quiet imbalance. The first step toward gracefully reclaiming your power is to locate the precise places where you have willingly, or perhaps unconsciously, given it away. This requires a gentle, honest look at your current life through the lens of fairness and balance. Think of your life as a series of important partnerships, with your resources, with your future self, and with the people around you. Is that partnership equitable? Is the scale balanced? Where does the weight feel heavily shifted away from your control? The most noticeable area is often financial dependence. Do you rely on a partner's income to cover essentials, feeling anxious when they speak of their career? Do you fear looking at your bank account because you know it holds only a fraction of what you truly need for security? Dependence here can subtly force you to remain in situations, jobs, relationships, or living arrangements that no longer serve your growth, simply because the exit costs feel too intimidating. When your financial freedom is constrained, your entire range of life choices becomes constrained. You lose the dignity of choice. More intricate is emotional dependence. This is trickier to spot, yet equally debilitating. Do you feel you require constant, active validation from a certain person to feel good about your decisions? Do you rely heavily on a friend or partner to regulate your own emotional state, making their mood the primary barometer for your day? Emotional dependence keeps your spirit small. It insists that your worth is an external variable, determined by someone else's opinion or presence. It prevents you from developing the deep, inner capacity for self-soothing and self-trust that is essential for a composed grace. Finally, there is decision dependence. This manifests as the near inability to move forward without seeking multiple opinions or, worse, habitually deferring to the judgment of a more dominant person. If you cannot confidently choose a long-term goal, a major purchase, or even a saving strategy without extensive reassurance, you are giving away the right to self-govern. When you rely on others to consistently make your choices, you simultaneously grant them the power to shape your life's essential direction. In all these cases, the consequence is the same. You trade your poise and stability for a fragile, external sense of security, reclaiming the threads of power. The beauty of this journey is that you do not need to reclaim your power in a messy, aggressive fight. You reclaim it with finesse and strategy. We are aiming for a steady, harmonious realignment, not a sudden, violent break that leaves debris behind. To break free, you must first identify the specific threads of dependence you need to gently but firmly cut. If the thread is financial, the solution is concrete and actionable. You must establish your own reserve. Start a separate, non-negotiable emergency fund that only you control and know about. This is not just money. It is a reservoir of emotional calm. When you know you have a cushion of expenses set aside, the anxiety that fuels dependence begins to gently dissipate. Also, perform a skill audit. Investigate the skills that make you independently valuable. Quietly begin to develop those skills, whether through professional training, online courses, or simply learning to manage your household budget autonomously. Knowledge and ability are profound sources of independent power. If the thread is emotional, the strategy must be gentle and firm. Practice self-validation. When you make a small decision, consciously refrain from seeking approval from your usual source. After you act, pause and affirm the choice to yourself. You are consciously retraining your internal dialogue, teaching yourself that your own judgment is sufficient. Then, create psychological space. Schedule time to be truly alone, without distraction, without the need to report your activities. Use this time to simply be with your own thoughts and feelings. Learn to sit with any discomfort without immediately reaching for someone else to fix it. This practice builds your emotional resilience and self-soothing capacity. If the thread is decision-based, you must practice ownership. Start small by making a non-reversible choice. Pick a saving strategy, decide on a short-term goal, or schedule an appointment without consulting your usual council of advisors. Then, live with the result. If it is not perfect, that is fine. You learn that a mistake made by you is less damaging than a perfect outcome, achieved through total reliance on others. Ownership of the decision-making process is far more valuable than perfection of the outcome. The difference between support and crutch. This journey isn't about becoming rigidly isolated. It's about making a crucial distinction between a support and a crutch. A support is a connection that enhances your strength. It is a shared conversation where both partners offer perspective, but each maintains their right to the final, autonomous decision. It is a reciprocal relationship based on respect and equality. A crutch is something you feel you must use to move. If the crutch is removed, you feel crippled and exposed. A crutch implies a fundamental lack, a deficit that must be filled externally to function. The gracefully independent person knows how to leverage support while firmly refusing the necessity of a crutch. They ask for help when it is genuinely needed, for expertise, collaboration, or compassion during a crisis, but they never surrender their own capacity to function independently. Look at your key relationships. Do they feel like an equal exchange? When you receive assistance, is it given with genuine generosity, or is there a subtle, unspoken expectation that you now owe something that compromises your truth or your future choices? True support elevates both parties. A crutch quietly diminishes the person leaning on it. The elegance of reciprocity, reclaiming your power, is also a profound act of fairness toward others. When you are overly dependent on someone, whether for money, emotional stability, or even just company, you are placing an unsustainable, heavy burden on them. You are unknowingly tilting their scales as well, burdening their own sense of balance. The person carrying your dependency will eventually begin to feel the drain. They may feel trapped, or perhaps worse, they may begin to subtly resent the relationship because it is based on need rather than mutual delight. When you stand solidly on your own 2 feet, you give the other person the ultimate gift, the freedom to be with you fully and honestly. Your presence in their life becomes a confident choice, a genuine offering, not an anxious demand. This is the elegance of reciprocity. It means that what you bring to the table, your stability, your clear-headed confidence, your financial competence, matches or complements what your partner or community brings. There is a beautiful, easy flow of giving and receiving that does not track favors or harbor hidden debts. When you are financially stable on your own, any money shared or joint decisions made become a collaborative endeavor, not a life raft. This frees up the energy in the relationship for joy, for shared goals, and for mutual growth, rather than being constantly consumed by the anxiety of survival. The gentle art of drawing boundaries. Reclaiming power requires learning the gentle, yet firm, art of the boundary. A boundary isn't a weapon used to push people away. It's a clear line that defines where you end and where the other person begins. It is the respectful framework that allows for balanced interaction. If you are financially dependent, your boundary is compromised because you fear the consequences of saying a firm no. If you are emotionally dependent, your boundary dissolves because you fear losing the source of your validation. To reclaim grace, practice this type of boundary setting, the boundary of receiving. Learn to accept help gracefully but with clear limits. If a relative or partner wants to give you money, accept it as a gift, but clearly state that you will not discuss your life choices or personal goals in exchange for it. You separate the transaction of help from the control over your life. Breaking free from dependence is ultimately an act of profound self-assertion. It's the quiet, graceful declaration. My well-being is my ultimate responsibility, and I embrace that with competence. This declaration does not diminish anyone else. It simply elevates you to your rightful, capable space. In achieving this perfect balance, you replace the anxiety of dependence with the beautiful, solid certainty of self-trust. You reclaim your freedom not with harshness, but with the quiet, undeniable strength of someone who has chosen their own terms, and that is a truly elegant way to live. Take an honest, non-judgmental look at one specific thread of dependency, financial, emotional, or decisional, that you need to address. What is the single, small action you can take this week to begin the process of quietly, gracefully cutting that thread and reclaiming your personal power? Chapter 3. The Struggle Between Comfort and Growth. One of the most persistent and human struggles we face is the tension between wanting stability and needing expansion. We desire the warm, predictable comfort of what we already know, yet we simultaneously crave the growth that only comes from stepping into the unfamiliar. This struggle is particularly sharp when it comes to financial independence. We want the security of a consistent paycheck, the reliable rhythm of a familiar routine, and the safety net of established resources. That comfort is vital. It allows us to feel calm and centered. However, if we clutch too tightly to comfort, we risk stagnation. We become a still pool of water, beautiful in its quietness, but eventually unable to refresh itself. Growth, on the other hand, is the moving current. It's the unsettling push toward new skills, new risks, and new ways of seeing the world. Growth promises abundance and mastery, but it demands that we momentarily surrender our sense of easy certainty. The elegantly independent person understands that true long-term stability isn't found in avoiding risk, but in learning how to balance these two forces. It is the art of moving gracefully between the secure harbor and the open sea. The allure of the comfortable rut. The comfortable rut is one of the biggest thieves of our potential. It's not necessarily a terrible place. It's simply a place where progress has paused indefinitely. Think about a job that pays well enough but offers no challenge. The work is easy. The routine is steady. It feels safe. But after months or years, the work begins to feel like a kind of psychological anesthetic. You are financially comfortable, perhaps, but your spirit is bored. Your skills are gathering dust. This kind of comfort is seductive because it reduces anxiety. It makes decisions feel simple. Why rock the boat? Why start the arduous task of learning something new, saving more aggressively, or changing careers when things are fine? The insidious danger of this particular comfort is that it often masks a quiet form of financial dependence. Dependence on a predictable, unchanging stream of income that may not be sustainable or fulfilling in the long run. If that comfortable source suddenly vanishes, you find yourself exposed, having neglected to build the adaptive skills needed to quickly find a new path. To stand strong on your own terms, you must recognize that true security is not static. It is dynamic. It is the ability to adapt, to pivot, and to learn. Clinging to comfort today is often borrowing anxiety from tomorrow, the imperative of gentle expansion. To counteract stagnation, we must embrace gentle expansion. This isn't about reckless abandon or throwing away everything you've built. That would be an act of imbalance. Instead, it is about making small, deliberate choices that honor your desire for stability while gently nudging you toward growth. The goal is to expand your capacity without losing your sense of poise. If you are comfortable in your current financial situation, the expansion might be 1. Dedicating a few hours a week to learning a high-value skill that could translate into a freelance side income. This provides an escape route, a second stream of revenue, and a huge boost to self-confidence. It expands your financial comfort zone without requiring you to quit your job. 2. Consciously allocating more of your income toward investments or savings vehicles that require you to become more financially literate. Growth here means accepting a slight increase in complexity in exchange for greater future autonomy. You are growing your money while growing your mind. 3. Introducing a productive kind of friction into your routine. If you are comfortable always relying on external advice, commit to developing and trusting your own financial plan for 3 months before seeking external review. The growth here is in self-trust. Growth doesn't need to feel like a dramatic upheaval. It should feel like a steady, purposeful leaning forward, honoring the need for balance. The key to navigating this tension gracefully is to find the point of equilibrium between comfort and challenge. Too much comfort leads to soft dependence. Too much challenge leads to burnout and instability. How do you find your personal point of balance? You must treat your life not as a battleground between work and rest, but as a system of reciprocal needs. If you feel stable, challenge yourself softly. Introduce one new, manageable growth goal. Make sure your goal is defined by progress, not instant perfection. For example, instead of aiming to become a millionaire this year, aim to read and understand 5 books on investing, or save an additional 10% of my income this quarter. This is growth that honors stability. If you feel overwhelmed by growth, retreat gracefully. If a big career change or a major investment is causing sleepless nights, it's not a failure to pull back and consolidate your resources. True strength is knowing when to pause. A well-placed pause allows you to process what you've learned, regain your internal equilibrium, and then step forward again with renewed clarity and composure. Retreating to comfort for recalibration is strategic. Staying there indefinitely is stagnation. We are aiming for conscious movement. You want to be the one in charge of the rhythm, deciding when to sprint forward and when to settle into a steady, sustainable pace. The psychological cost of stagnation. We must also acknowledge the psychological cost of choosing comfort over growth for too long. When you refuse the call to expand, a quiet form of self-contempt can set in. You know deep down that you are capable of more, but you have chosen the easy path. This can manifest as low-level resentment, envy of others' success, or a generalized feeling of being stuck. This internal imbalance erodes your grace and self-acceptance. Financial independence is not just about the numbers in your bank account. It is about the feeling of capability that those numbers represent. Every time you learn a new skill, every time you take a calculated risk that pays off, and every time you successfully navigate a moment of uncertainty, you deposit into your bank of self-worth. This internal currency is more valuable than any money you can earn. The psychological payout of growth is confidence. Confidence is not arrogance. It is the quiet, solid knowing that you possess the skills, the resilience, and the internal compass to handle whatever comes next. This feeling, this poise, is the most elegant form of security there is, making choices that honor both stability and self. To bring this into daily practice, examine your upcoming choices. Ask yourself a simple question, framed in terms of graceful balance. Does this choice honor my need for stability without suffocating my potential for growth? If a choice offers immense stability but requires you to stop learning, stop aspiring, or stop challenging your assumptions, the answer is no. That comfort is too costly. If a choice offers exciting growth but is so high risk that it could destabilize your entire life and require years of recovery, the answer is also no. That growth is too reckless. The most graceful choices reside in the middle ground, the measured step, the strategic investment, the gentle negotiation. They are the choices that allow you to say, I am taking care of my present self by remaining stable, and I am honoring my future self by committing to growth. For example, choosing to work part-time on a passion project that could eventually become your main income, while keeping your stable job for 6 more months, is a balanced choice. It respects both your current need for security and your future need for fulfillment, cultivating an aesthetic of progress. Finally, recognize that this movement between comfort and growth should possess an aesthetic, a beauty in its execution. We are aiming for progress with elegance. This means that you do not pursue growth in a messy, desperate way. You pursue it with clarity and a sense of calm intentionality. You make your budget not as a punishment, but as a clear blueprint for your future freedom. You learn a new skill not out of frantic necessity, but as a beautiful expansion of your own potential. When you approach your financial life with this focus on balance and grace, the anxiety that usually accompanies major decisions begins to fade. You replace the frantic energy of fear with the composed energy of purpose. You realize that standing strong is not about fighting the world, but about finding the most harmonious way to move within it. By continuously seeking the elegant equilibrium between being safe and being challenged, You ensure that your independence is not brittle or stagnant, but resilient, adaptive, and always moving toward a more abundant future. Reflect on one area of your life, personal or financial, where you are currently prioritizing comfort to the detriment of your long-term growth. What is the smallest, most graceful adjustment you can make this week to introduce a productive challenge without losing your sense of inner stability? Chapter 4. Releasing the fear of standing alone. The idea of independence often carries a subtle, unspoken burden. The fear that choosing to rely on yourself means walking away from love, support, and partnership. It can feel as though self-reliance is a solitary, cold road, forcing you to trade the warmth of connection for the stark necessity of standing alone. This fear is one of the most significant psychological barriers to true financial freedom. If we equate self-sufficiency with isolation, we will perpetually hesitate at the edge of empowerment, convinced that our strength will repel the very bonds we cherish. But this is a misunderstanding of what genuine strength achieves. True self-reliance does not sever connection, it refines it. It means you stand strong not in isolation, but in a state of self-possession that allows for a higher, more graceful quality of partnership. The misleading comfort of codependence. The fear of standing alone often drives us toward codependence, a state where two people lean on each other to form a complete, but fragile whole. In a financially codependent structure, one person might provide all the stability while the other provides all the emotional labor, or one earns all the money while the other manages the home, creating a necessary, yet vulnerable, imbalance. While this structure offers a certain kind of immediate comfort, it breeds a deeper, chronic anxiety. If one side of the structure falters, if the income stream vanishes or the emotional caretaker leaves, the entire structure collapses, proving that the security was never truly stable in the first place. The fear whispers, if I become entirely competent, I won't be needed anymore. But being needed out of deficiency is not love, it is entanglement. It traps both people in roles that limit their full potential. Releasing the fear means understanding that your deepest value to a partner or a community comes from your wholeness, not your neediness. When you stand on your own, you are inviting partnership from a place of abundance, offering your complete, stable self as a companion, not as a demanding half. Self-reliance as empowerment, not isolation. Let us redefine the image of the independent person. It is not the solitary figure on a distant mountain peak. It is the person who is so centered, so secure in their own financial and emotional foundation, that they can approach any relationship, personal or professional, from a position of equal footing. This is the very essence of dignity and grace. When you are financially self-reliant, you possess the power to choose partners based on pure alignment and affection, rather than fiscal necessity. You can walk into a joint decision, such as purchasing a home or planning a future, and know that your voice is valued because it is free of constraint. This sense of empowerment doesn't push people away. It draws them closer, inviting reciprocal respect. People are attracted to stability and clarity. They are drawn to the composed energy of someone who has chosen themselves and built their own foundation. You do not need to shed your relationships to achieve strength. You need to achieve strength to truly honor your relationships. Independence gives you the leverage to insist on fairness, on mutual contribution, and on the emotional honesty that builds deep, lasting, and elegant partnerships. The practice of psychological separation. The process of releasing the fear of standing alone begins with psychological separation. This does not mean cutting emotional ties. It means separating your internal sense of well-being from the external presence of others. Practice defining your own success, your own happiness, and your own path internally. 1. Define your own financial finish line. Do not measure your success by the size of your friend's house or your cousin's salary. Create a clear, personalized definition of what enough means to you. Perhaps it is financial freedom to work part-time or enough savings to pursue creative endeavors. This internal metric frees you from constant comparison and external validation. 2. Learn to be your own primary source of calm. When anxiety hits, practice techniques to self-soothe before reaching for a partner or friend to solve the feeling for you. Acknowledge the feeling, breathe through it, and tell yourself, I am safe. I can handle this. This builds the muscle of emotional resilience, allowing you to enter conversations from a place of composure rather than reaction. 3. Spend structured, purposeful time alone. Do not just wait until you are alone accidentally. Schedule time for independent activities, a quiet walk, a budget review, a long writing session. This proves to your subconscious mind that being alone is not a punishment or a deficit, but an opportunity for self-nurturing and clarity. Each small act of self-reliance is a gentle counterargument to the fear of isolation. It is a quiet declaration that you are, in fact, sufficient. Building resilience in partnership. A gracefully independent person is a magnificent partner because they bring resilience into the bond. They are not a delicate half that needs careful handling. They are a sturdy, reliable whole. When two whole people come together, the relationship is exponentially stronger. If one person experiences a professional setback or an emotional crisis, the other is not thrown into panic. The stable partner can hold the center, offering support from a place of genuine composure, because their own well-being is not hanging in the balance. This is the beauty of balanced collaboration. It means that you can offer help without feeling drained, and you can accept help without feeling indebted. The flow of giving and receiving becomes easy, generous, and reciprocal, which is the hallmark of an elegant, lasting connection. The path to releasing the fear is to trust this truth. True intimacy requires two individuals who are not afraid to be alone. Only when you are secure in your own foundation can you fully open up to another person without the fear that they will take your stability with them when they leave. You stop seeing others as essential anchors and start seeing them as valuable companions for the journey. Claiming your space with poise. Standing alone means claiming your space in the world with poise. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to negotiate fairly, to state your boundaries clearly, and to maintain your course without being easily swayed by the shifting opinions of others. This applies directly to your financial life. When you are independent, you can confidently tell a vendor, "No, that price is not fair," or tell an employer, "Yes, I deserve this raise." You do so not with aggression, but with the calm authority of someone who knows their own value and has alternatives. This self-respect is magnetic. It signals to the world that you are a person of substance and clear boundaries. Releasing the fear of being alone is not about achieving perfection. It is about committing to the process of self-authorship. It is the graceful commitment to meet your own needs first, so that every relationship and connection you cultivate is built on the strong, beautiful bedrock of mutual respect and shared choice. This internal confidence is the ultimate antidote to the fear of isolation. You stop seeing self-reliance as a sacrifice and start seeing it as the most beautiful gift you can give, both to yourself and to those you love. Take a quiet moment to identify one unhealthy dependency, emotional or financial, that you maintain out of a fear of being alone. What is the single, courageous action you can take this week to intentionally and gracefully replace that dependency with a new source of self-generated comfort or security? Chapter 5. Defining wealth on your own terms. We live in a world that constantly broadcasts a definition of wealth. a definition often characterized by scale, speed, and visible accumulation. This external measure insists that wealth is about hitting certain numbers, owning certain things, or achieving a particular status that can be easily compared to others. But the journey toward financial independence with grace requires a crucial step of turning inward. It requires you to set aside the external noise and undertake the most personal and necessary audit, defining what wealth truly means to you. If you chase a financial goal dictated by someone else, be it a parent, a social media influencer, or cultural expectation, you might achieve the numbers, but you will find yourself in possession of an empty outcome. You will have built a structure that looks impressive from the outside, but feels hollow and misaligned on the inside. That is the very antithesis of graceful independence. True financial independence is not merely about numbers. It is about alignment. It is about ensuring that your money, your resources, and your time are arranged in a pattern that reflects your deepest values, creating an aesthetic of life that feels profoundly satisfying and beautiful to your own soul. The problem with external metrics. Why is it so vital to abandon the common external definition of wealth? Because those definitions are inherently unbalanced. They often glorify a pursuit that sacrifices internal harmony for external gain. Perhaps the outside world says wealth is a private jet and a portfolio large enough to retire at 35. But if your deepest value is time for creative work and quiet community, chasing that external goal will force you into years of aggressive, stressful work that leaves you exhausted and creatively starved. You gain the wealth but lose the life you truly wanted. Perhaps the outside world says wealth is about accumulating every luxury item. But if your deepest value is simplicity and environmental stewardship, that chase will fill your home with clutter and your mind with consumption anxiety. You gain the things but lose the peace you desired. The external metrics force you into a one-size-fits-all definition of success, and that is fundamentally unfair to your unique spirit. Your independence must be a reflection of your singular truth, carefully designed by you. Wealth as internal alignment. Let's redefine wealth not as a dollar figure, but as a state of internal alignment between your resources and your core needs. To do this, you must look beyond the purely transactional and identify what truly gives your life balance, peace, and beauty. Ask yourself these foundational questions, and let the answers define your financial journey. 1. What does my ideal environment look like? Does it involve spacious homes in busy cities, or a small, well-tended space surrounded by nature? The answer determines whether your financial energy should be directed toward a massive mortgage or a portfolio that affords geographical freedom. 2. What activities give me my deepest sense of meaning and flow? Is it teaching, creating art, mentoring, or solving complex logistical problems? Your wealth plan must be built to protect and prioritize the time needed for these activities, ensuring they are not relegated to a hurried weekend footnote. 3. What kind of relationships do I value most? Do I prioritize a tightly knit family unit, extensive global friendships, or deep partnerships built on shared projects? The answer dictates how much flexibility your income stream must have, and how much financial margin you need to be generous with your time and attention. For one person, true wealth might be the ability to work only 20 hours a week, freeing up time for poetry and reflection. For another, it might be the peace of having a completely debt-free life, regardless of net worth. For a third, it might be the capital needed to start a foundation dedicated to a cause they believe in. There is no single correct answer. Your definition of wealth is as unique as your fingerprint, and honoring it is the ultimate act of self-respect. Designing the aesthetic of your financial life. Once you have clarity on your values, you can begin to design the aesthetic of your financial life. This is the art of ensuring your money moves in a way that feels harmonious and right. If your core value is beauty and quality, a very graceful pursuit, then your financial plan should prioritize purchasing fewer items that are exceptionally well-made and long-lasting, rather than chasing fleeting trends. Your budget becomes an expression of quality over quantity. If your core value is peace and uninterrupted thought, then your financial independence plan should prioritize having a large liquid safety net and automated savings. This creates a psychological buffer against anxiety, allowing your mind to rest in a state of calm security. You are buying time and mental space. If your core value is justice and fairness, then your investment strategy should focus on ethical, responsible companies that align with your worldview. Your money then becomes a graceful, purposeful vote for the kind of world you wish to live in, rather than a mere means of personal extraction. When your financial choices are aligned with your aesthetic values, the process of saving and spending stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like an act of intentional creation. You are literally building a life that is beautiful to you from the inside out. The grace of enough. A crucial step in defining wealth is determining when you have enough. External wealth metrics have no concept of enough. They are based on constant accumulation and comparison. This endless pursuit is exhausting and fundamentally unbalanced. Defining enough is the point where you grant yourself permission to step off the hamster wheel. It is the moment you realize that the next milestone, the next purchase, the next doubling of the portfolio will not fundamentally increase your happiness or security, but may instead increase your complexity and stress. The elegance of enough is that it frees up energy. When you know you have enough to cover your values-aligned lifestyle, you can redirect your mental and physical energy away from frantic earning and toward deeper, more meaningful engagement with life. Whether that means richer relationships, community involvement, or self-nurturing. This is where the true equilibrium is found. When the effort you expend to maintain your lifestyle is in perfect balance with the joy and meaning you derive from it. When the scale is perfectly centered, you are rich, regardless of the precise numbers. Rejecting the default path. To achieve this clarity, you must actively reject the default path set by society. You must be willing to make choices that look illogical or unconventional to others. If everyone around you is accumulating high-status debt, expensive cars, huge homes, and your value is true freedom, your choice must be to live simply, drive reliably, and prioritize rapidly eliminating debt. Others may question your choices, but your internal peace will be your evidence. The gracefully independent person does not seek approval for their financial blueprint. They seek authenticity. They understand that the only person who must feel comfortable and secure in their financial skin is themselves. Claiming your own definition of wealth is not an aggressive act. It is a gentle, firm act of self-sovereignty. You are simply declaring that your internal scale of value is the only one that counts. This intentionality, this careful alignment of resources with spirit, is the highest form of financial grace. Take a quiet moment to reflect on your true, non-negotiable core values: peace, beauty, time, fairness. Now, look at your current financial plan. Is your money actively flowing towards supporting these values, or is it merely chasing an external number? Identify one gentle adjustment you can make this week to bring your spending or saving into closer, more beautiful alignment with your internal definition of wealth. Chapter 6. The Art of Balanced Decision-Making. Every day, we are faced with decisions that have weight. In the context of financial independence, these choices are the steady strokes that either build your ship of security or subtly drill holes in its hull. Deciding where to save, how to invest, or whether to make a major purchase are not merely logistical tasks. They are acts of profound self-governance. The challenge is that decision-making, especially when money is involved, often becomes unbalanced. We either fall into a frantic cycle of indecision, paralyzed by the fear of making a wrong move, or we rush toward an impulsive choice driven by emotion or external pressure. Both extremes are costly, leading to regret and a loss of personal poise. The art of balanced decision-making is the capacity to find the elegant middle ground, acting with confidence while maintaining harmony in your life. It is the ability to weigh options fairly, consult your internal compass, and move forward with composure. The cost of indecision. Indecision is often disguised as careful deliberation, but it is, in fact, one of the most expensive choices you can make. The longer you hesitate, the more opportunities you allow to slip away, and the more energy you drain from your system. Think about a major investment decision. If you spend months agonizing over the perfect timing or the perfect vehicle, you not only miss out on potential growth, but you also incur the psychological cost of chronic anxiety. You have dedicated valuable mental space to a problem you are refusing to solve. Indecision keeps you tied to the past, stuck in a cycle of analysis without action. It is the opposite of graceful forward movement. A truly balanced approach recognizes that a choice made with good information and clear intent, even if imperfect, is almost always superior to the paralysis of non-choice. Your goal is not to find a decision that guarantees zero risk. Such a thing doesn't exist. Your goal is to find the decision that offers the most harmonious alignment with your values and your long-term plan. Once that clarity is achieved, the time for action has arrived. Tools for finding clarity. When faced with a complex financial choice, resist the temptation to gather endless data that only leads to information overload. Instead, employ tools that bring internal clarity and allow you to weigh the options fairly, like a balanced scale. 1. The value test. Before analyzing the numbers, test the choice against your core values, as defined in the previous chapter. Ask, does this investment of time or money honor my deepest value of peace, simplicity, or freedom? If the answer is no, the choice is misaligned, regardless of the potential financial return. Discarding misaligned options immediately saves enormous energy and brings rapid clarity. 2. The future self-audit. This is a powerful technique for achieving long-term balance. For each viable option, project yourself 6 months or 1 year into the future. Imagine you have made that decision. Now, ask your future self 3 questions. Am I proud of how I made this choice? Did this choice create more peace or more stress? Was this choice made from a place of fear or a place of power? The clarity of your imagined emotional state is often the truest guide. 3. The reciprocity check. Every major financial decision, buying a house, changing careers, starting a business, impacts the people around you. A balanced choice is one that seeks to minimize undue burden on your loved ones. Before committing, consider, how will this choice affect my partnership, my family, and my energy reserves? The goal isn't perfect harmony but reducing friction. If the choice brings you enormous gain but demands an unequal, painful sacrifice from a partner, it is ultimately an unbalanced, unsustainable choice. The power of the pause. In a culture that celebrates hustle and immediate results, the ability to execute a strategic pause is an act of quiet strength. A pause is not the same as indecision. Indecision is paralyzing. A pause is intentional. When a decision feels overwhelming or when external pressure is mounting, perhaps a salesperson is rushing you, or a market fluctuation is tempting you, you must learn to apply the brake. The pause allows you to reclaim your composure and consult your internal authority. It enables you to move from a reactive state to a reflective state. During this time, you stop seeking new information and start organizing the existing information. You simply allow your intuition, guided by your values, to settle and assert itself. This pause might be 24 hours to sleep on a proposal, or it might be a weekend of quiet reflection on a career change. The length is less important than the commitment to mental neutrality. When you approach the decision again, you do so with a clear mind and a calm, centered spirit. This poise is what separates the elegant decision-maker from the impulsive one. Acting with graceful confidence. Once you have gathered your internal counsel, passed the value tests, and settled on a course, the final and most critical step is to act with graceful confidence. Confidence here does not mean arrogance or the pretense of certainty. It means having conviction in the process you used to arrive at the decision. You can move forward knowing you weighed the factors fairly, honored your values, and made the best choice possible with the information available at that time. This conviction is what allows you to handle the inevitable small setbacks without collapsing into self-doubt. When an investment dips slightly, or a new venture hits a minor obstacle, the indecisive person panics and reverts to seeking external validation. The confident, graceful decision-maker reviews the original logic and adjusts the sails slightly, without changing the course. The elegant application of a decision requires consistency and a steady hand. Every time you make a balanced choice, follow through, and own the result, good or bad, you strengthen your personal authority. You are essentially telling yourself, I trust my own judgment and I can be relied upon. This is the ultimate feedback loop for building lasting self-reliance. By learning to balance careful, values-based consideration with timely, confident action, you elevate your financial journey from a source of stress to a demonstration of self-mastery. You replace the frantic energy of fear with the composed energy of purpose, ensuring that every financial step you take maintains the harmony and dignity of your life. Reflect on one current financial choice you are agonizing over. Which of the three tools, the value test, the future self-audit, or the reciprocity check, will you apply today to bring clarity to the situation and move yourself closer to a graceful, confident decision? Chapter 7. Building Strength Without Losing Elegance. There is a common, often unhelpful, assumption that strength requires hardness. When people talk about becoming independent or financially resilient, they often default to images of sternness, unwavering focus, and a willingness to aggressively dominate. This mindset suggests that to be strong, you must be rigid, discarding any sense of softness, grace, or joy as liabilities. This is a fundamentally unbalanced view of power. True, lasting strength is not found in an impenetrable shell, but in deep, adaptive resilience. It is the ability to absorb a shock, bend without breaking, and return to your center with your composure intact. This kind of strength does not need to be loud or aggressive. In fact, its most powerful form is often quiet, steady, and entirely graceful. The goal of graceful independence is to embody resilience without sacrificing the elegance and joy that make life meaningful. We are seeking a powerful, protective core that allows your external demeanor to remain open, kind, and beautifully composed. The misconception of hardness. Hardness is a defensive posture. When we harden ourselves financially or emotionally, we are trying to prevent pain, but we often end up preventing connection and fulfillment instead. A hard financial approach might lead to relentless saving that strips your life of all small joys. A balanced dinner out, a beautiful piece of art, a weekend trip. You become financially secure but emotionally impoverished. This kind of strength is brittle. When a truly unexpected shock occurs, a market collapse, a health crisis, a rigid, hard system is more likely to shatter than a flexible one. Elegance, conversely, is characterized by flexibility and movement. Think of a master dancer. Their movements are powerful, driven by immense core strength, yet they appear effortless and soft. That effortless quality is what we seek in our independence. It means that the difficult, disciplined work of planning and saving is done quietly, allowing your interactions with the world to be free and light. Your strength should be like tempered steel, strong enough to hold its shape but flexible enough not to snap. The three pillars of elegant strength. Building resilience, without losing elegance, relies on cultivating three interconnected areas of quiet strength: financial, emotional, and aesthetic. Financial resilience as margin. This is the ability to withstand an economic shock without losing your dignity or having to make panicked, desperate decisions. It is not about how much money you have. It's about the financial margin you've built into your life. A large emergency fund is a pool of composure. Passive income streams are lines of defense. When these margins exist, a sudden expense no longer causes a frantic reaction. It causes a thoughtful pause. This quiet preparedness allows you to address the challenge with poise rather than panic. Emotional resilience as composure. This is the internal capacity to recognize turbulent feelings, fear, anger, worry, without allowing them to dictate your external actions. Emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of feeling. When you face a professional rejection or a financial setback, the resilient person acknowledges the pain, processes it internally, and responds with a measured, composed voice. This composure is an immense form of strength, signaling to the world and to yourself that you are the final authority over your state of being. Aesthetic resilience as alignment. This is the strength that comes from living a life that is so deeply aligned with your values that external pressures have a limited effect. If you have chosen to define wealth as time and creative freedom, losing a high-paying, stressful job is not a catastrophic blow. It is a difficult pivot. Your internal aesthetic provides a guiding star that maintains your direction and sense of self, even when your immediate circumstances are thrown into disarray. The strength in saying no with grace. One of the most powerful and graceful demonstrations of strength is the ability to set clear boundaries. Many people confuse giving in with being kind or flexible, but constantly saying yes to misaligned requests, whether financial loans, energy drains, or time commitments, erodes your own foundation. Strength requires a firm no. Elegance requires that you deliver it with grace. A forceful no might cause friction. A harsh no might damage a relationship. But a graceful, definitive no maintains your boundary while honoring the relationship. For example, if asked for a loan you cannot comfortably afford, the elegant response is not an angry refusal, but a clear, composed statement. I deeply value our relationship, but I need to protect the margin I've set aside for my own stability, so I can't offer you a loan right now. I hope you understand. This response shows respect for the other person's situation, but ultimate respect for your own balanced foundation. This firmness delivered with kindness is not hard, it is simply clear. And clarity is the ultimate form of elegance in communication. Integrating joy as a strategic asset. Many people delay joy until independence is achieved, treating it as a reward rather than a necessary fuel. But joy, beauty, and pleasure are not weaknesses. They are strategic assets in the journey toward strength. A life stripped of elegance and pleasure is a life prone to burnout and self-sabotage. If your path to financial freedom is miserable, you are psychologically guaranteed to derail it eventually. True strength incorporates the things that replenish the spirit. Dedicate financial and time resources toward experiences that bring you genuine joy, whether it's gardening, quiet reflection, beautiful art, or meaningful connection. These activities are not distractions. They are restorative inputs. When you approach your financial plan from a place of sufficiency and gentle appreciation, finding beauty in your functional budget, gratitude for your small savings, you engage with the process with a lighter heart. This graceful engagement makes the entire path sustainable, steady, and resilient. Strength without elegance is exhausting. Elegance without underlying strength is fragile. The graceful, independent person weaves the two together, ensuring their internal security is strong enough to allow their external life to be lived with composure, beauty, and unburdened joy. Think about a past moment when you felt overwhelmed or brittle. Was your reaction aggressive hardness or composed resilience? Now, identify one intentional practice, whether it's reviewing your budget with calm focus or implementing a clear boundary, that you can adopt this week to build your quiet, graceful strength. Chapter 8. Finding Beauty in Simplicity. When we first picture financial independence, the mind often leaps to complexity. We imagine intricate investment portfolios, multiple income streams, or the constant management required to oversee vast resources. We assume that to be wealthy or free, we must have more assets, more transactions, more things to manage. But the journey toward independence with grace often reveals a surprising truth. Financial freedom isn't always about accumulation. It is powerfully, elegantly about subtraction. It's about discerning what is essential to your well-being and gracefully releasing the rest. Finding beauty in simplicity is the art of streamlining your life and reducing excess until what remains is pure, functional, and deeply resonant with your values. This simplicity creates a sense of balance, freedom, and serenity that no amount of unnecessary complexity can replicate. The unseen cost of complexity. Complexity is expensive. It demands constant energy, attention, and time, three resources far more valuable than money. Consider the complexity of a highly consumer-driven life. Every extra item you own requires energy to acquire, space to store, time to clean, and money to maintain or replace. Each additional commitment on your calendar requires mental energy to track and execute. Each unnecessary layer of debt or an overly complicated budget requires constant monitoring. This complexity creates friction. It introduces unnecessary stress and pulls your focus away from what truly matters: your relationships, your growth, and your inner peace. When your life is cluttered with obligations, material possessions, or complicated financial arrangements, your spirit cannot move with grace. It is weighed down by the sheer volume of things demanding your attention. Simplicity, by contrast, is a form of composure. When your life is simplified, your energy is consolidated. You focus your resources on fewer, more meaningful things, allowing those areas to flourish. This clarity of focus is where true financial strength resides. Redefining scarcity and abundance. We often confuse material abundance with life fulfillment. We believe that if we have less stuff, we are experiencing scarcity. But if your life is so burdened by the things you own that you have no time for joy, that is the definition of scarcity. Scarcity of time, scarcity of peace. True abundance is having exactly what you need to support your values, with margin left over for unexpected opportunities or generosity. The graceful path to independence requires a mental shift to see simplification not as deprivation, but as strategic refinement. You aren't cutting back because you have to. You are refining your life because you want to amplify your freedom. This process begins with an honest inventory of your current lifestyle and possessions. Ask the clarifying question: Does this item, this expense, or this commitment actively contribute to my sense of peace, beauty, or long-term freedom? If the answer is no, it is excess. And excess, regardless of its cost, is always a form of debt. It owes you nothing, but you owe it your attention. Releasing it is a quiet, powerful act of claiming back your life force. The aesthetic of financial simplicity. Simplicity should not look sparse or desolate. It should look elegant. The aesthetic of simplicity in your financial life means creating functional clarity. Simplicity in spending. Focus your spending on experiences and items that align with your highest values. If your value is time with family, that is where your money goes. If your value is learning, your money goes toward courses and books. By removing low-value, impulse purchases, your budget becomes a beautiful, purposeful blueprint for your life, free of clutter and misdirection. Simplicity in systems. Streamline your financial systems. Reduce the number of bank accounts, credit cards, or investment platforms you actively manage. Automate your savings and investment contributions so the wealth-building process runs quietly in the background, freeing your conscious mind from constant monitoring. A simple system is inherently more stable and requires less energy to maintain. Simplicity in space. Declutter your physical environment. This is more than just organizing. It is reducing the sheer volume of items you own. When your home is simplified, your mind feels lighter. You reduce maintenance time and realize that your happiness is not tied to objects. This translates directly to financial strength because it lowers the mental barrier against living with less, making you less susceptible to the allure of overspending. When your life is simplified, there is a beautiful, easy harmony between what you earn and how you live. You earn enough to support a life designed around your values, and you don't need excessive income to sustain a burdensome, complex lifestyle. Simplicity as resilience. Finding beauty in simplicity is ultimately an act of resilience. It makes you incredibly strong against economic change. When your expenses are low because you have simplified your needs, your financial runway, the length of time you could survive without an income, grows exponentially. This is a profound source of calm. Your dependence on any single job or client diminishes, giving you the freedom and composure to make graceful choices, even under pressure. Low expenses and minimal possessions mean you are highly mobile, both geographically and professionally. You are not trapped by a massive mortgage or a collection of items that anchors you to one place or one kind of work. This lightness allows you to move with flexibility and poise. If a better opportunity arises in another city, or if you feel called to transition to a less profitable but more fulfilling career, you can make that pivot without facing a mountain of financial friction. Your simplified life becomes a dynamic tool for your freedom. The greatest elegance is found in the absence of unnecessary struggle. By choosing a refined, simple existence, you create a sense of serene balance. You ensure that your life is not a battle against endless obligations, but a graceful, purposeful unfolding of your truest self. Look at your life now and identify one area, your budget, your physical space, or your commitments, that feels unnecessarily complex and heavy. What is the single, quiet act of subtraction you can perform this week to reclaim a measure of simplicity, and in doing so, amplify your freedom? Chapter 9. Turning setbacks into sources of strength. No path toward graceful independence is perfectly straight or flawlessly executed. Every journey encounters obstacles, detours, and moments where the ground beneath your feet feels uncertain. Setbacks are an unavoidable, intrinsic part of growth. They are simply the friction required to refine your systems and temper your resolve. The difference between a person who achieves lasting independence and one who retreats lies not in their ability to avoid failure, but in their reaction to it. When setbacks occur, the goal is not to let them break your spirit or destroy your poise. The goal is to embrace these challenges with composure, seeing them not as evidence of failure, but as precise, costly, and necessary feedback. By adopting this balanced perspective, you turn difficulties into stepping stones toward greater stability, transforming what felt like a loss into a source of enduring, elegant strength. The natural tilt of setbacks. A setback, a failed investment, an unexpected expense, a career misstep, is essentially an imbalance. It's a sudden, heavy weight thrown onto one side of your finely balanced scale of security. When this happens, the natural human reaction is a rapid loss of composure. We feel shame, regret, or panic. This emotional tilt is often more damaging than the financial loss itself, because it leads to rushed, reactive decisions, selling low, overcommitting, or retreating entirely. The gracefully independent person must learn to hold their center even when the scales are visibly moving. This requires an immediate pause to separate the fact of the loss from the emotion of the failure. The fact is a quantifiable amount of money or time. The emotion is a judgment about your self-worth. You must not let the emotion overwhelm the rational analysis. This pause allows you to reclaim your composure. Composure is the quiet strength to look at the setback clearly, without flinching, and ask one simple, powerful question. What is the fair and balanced lesson I am meant to derive from this? Seeking justice in the lesson. We often seek external justice for setbacks, blaming a partner, a boss, or the market. But the most productive form of justice is the internal reckoning that transforms the experience into wisdom. This is the moment where you refuse to let the cost be in vain. Every setback is a perfectly tailored piece of evidence showing you where your system was weak or where your assumptions were flawed. If an investment failed, the lesson might be that your risk tolerance was higher than your financial margin allowed, or that you relied too heavily on external advice without doing your own due diligence. If an unexpected expense wiped out your savings, the lesson might be that your emergency fund was insufficient for your current cost of living, or that your insurance coverage was inadequate. The work of turning a setback into a source of strength is a calm, detailed audit. Treat the setback like a complex accounting error that must be resolved. You must calmly trace the transaction back to its origin, the choice, the assumption, the blind spot that created the imbalance. This analysis is not about self-blame. It is about self-correction. It is the methodical, elegant process of refining your personal plan until it is stronger, clearer, and more resilient than it was before the challenge. The power of the pivot. Once the lesson is extracted, the next step is the graceful pivot. A pivot is not a total change in direction. It is a slight, strategic adjustment to your course based on newly acquired, costly information. If the setback revealed that your income stream was too narrow, the pivot is to immediately begin developing a second, small source of income to diversify your financial base. If the setback revealed a lack of clarity in your long-term goals, the pivot is to dedicate a weekend to revisiting your personal definition of wealth, making your targets clearer and more aligned with your values. This ability to adapt quickly, calmly, and strategically is the hallmark of true independence. It shows that your systems are dynamic and responsive, not brittle and rigid. The setback did not stop you. It merely provided the necessary data for a course correction. The energy that others expend on regret and frustration, you redirect into refinement and action. This is the elegant use of finite resources, turning negative energy into productive movement, building the muscle of resilience. Every successfully navigated setback builds your muscle of resilience. Resilience is simply the capacity to stand back up without losing your composure or your fundamental belief in your own competence. This muscle is built through repetition. Each time you look at a financial mistake, calmly implement the lesson, and witness your system recover, you deposit a high-value currency into your internal bank of self-trust. You prove to yourself, with irrefutable evidence, that you are not only capable of achieving financial freedom, but also capable of sustaining it through turbulence. This internal confidence, the knowing that you can absorb a shock and still maintain your poise, is the most elegant form of security there is. It is the peace that allows you to move forward with a lighter heart, knowing you are prepared for whatever friction the world might offer next. Your strength, therefore, is not measured by the smoothness of your journey, but by the composure and grace with which you navigate its inevitable bumps. By embracing challenges, you transform difficulty into depth, ensuring that your foundation is not just built upon success, but forged in the crucible of experience. This grounded, resilient stability is the quiet power that ensures your independence is not a fleeting state, but a lasting, graceful way of being. Think about the most recent financial or professional setback you faced. What is the single, clear lesson that experience taught you about your limits or your system? Commit today to making the one necessary pivot that ensures you transform that cost into lasting, unshakable strength. Chapter 10. Creating Harmony Between Wealth and Joy. Financial independence is often pursued as a means to an end, with the underlying belief that once a certain number is achieved, joy will naturally follow. Yet countless stories prove this belief is unbalanced. People reach impressive milestones only to find themselves profoundly unhappy, having traded their most precious resources, time, presence, and vitality, for a wealth that feels hollow. Money is, essentially, a tool. It is a powerful, necessary lever for creating freedom and stability, but joy is the fundamental purpose of a well-lived life. The truly graceful, independent person understands that financial success cannot come at the expense of happiness. Instead, the highest form of mastery is found in the harmony between what you earn and how you intentionally live. This chapter is about weaving these two elements together, so that your independence is not only secure, but also beautiful, rich, and serenely balanced. The misleading trade-off. The default cultural narrative suggests that there must be a trade-off. Either you choose the difficult, high-earning path that sacrifices present joy for future security, or you choose the joyful, low-stress path that compromises your long-term stability. This is a false dichotomy that leads to imbalance and quiet resentment. The person who sacrifices all present joy for future wealth risks burnout and waking up rich, but relationally and creatively poor. The person who sacrifices all future security for present pleasure risks the constant, draining anxiety of an unstable foundation. True harmony lies in rejecting the necessity of the sacrifice. It means making choices that are simultaneously financially sound and spiritually sustaining. This requires a delicate, constant balancing act, an internal negotiation that asks, how can I invest in my future security without diminishing the beauty and presence of my current life? The most elegant solutions are always those that honor both needs equally. Investing in joy as a financial strategy. We must begin to see joy, peace, and personal fulfillment not as frivolous extras, but as strategic assets in our financial life. When you are genuinely fulfilled and emotionally resilient, you make better financial decisions. You sustain high-quality work longer, and you are less prone to the impulsive spending driven by boredom or dissatisfaction. Therefore, consciously invest in the things that bring you deep, restorative joy. If your joy is found in community, Structure your financial life so that you have time and resources to be generous with your presence, not just your money. Perhaps this means accepting a slightly lower salary to have a job with more flexible hours. If your joy is found in learning and self-expression, dedicate a regular, non-negotiable portion of your budget to classes, creative supplies, or quiet, uninterrupted time. You are investing in your own inner reservoir of resilience. If your joy is found in beauty and order, allocate funds to maintain a simple, elegant living space that acts as a haven from the chaos of the world. You are buying mental space and visual peace. When money serves your joy, it becomes a tool for well-being, rather than a demanding master. Your budget ceases to be a restriction and transforms into an elegant blueprint for a joyful, balanced life. The measure of true return. The gracefully independent person knows that the highest return on any investment is not measured solely in dollars, but in quality of life. When you evaluate a job change, an investment, or a major purchase, your analysis must look beyond the immediate financial metrics and include the measure of joy return. Example: a new job offers a 20% increase in salary, but demands an extra 10 hours of your week and eliminates your ability to be present for a daily activity you cherish. The financial return is high. The joy return is negative. The elegant decision maker weighs these two returns against each other. If the new money is merely being used to support a complex lifestyle, the negative joy return is too costly. If, however, the new money is essential for creating a profound, life-altering financial margin, like paying off a life-limiting debt, then the short-term sacrifice might be justified, provided the sacrifice is intentional and temporary. True success is achieved when both scales, financial return and joy return, are tipping positively, creating a dynamic, elegant equilibrium. Never choose a financial path that guarantees you will be too drained, too busy, or too stressed to enjoy the very freedom you are striving to create. The final integration, living with mastery. The ultimate expression of independent grace is reaching a state where your wealth and your joy are fully integrated, no longer competing forces. This is living with mastery. In this integrated state, the anxiety that often surrounds money dissolves entirely. You handle your money with composure, knowing that your systems are strong and your foundation is secure. You approach your relationships with presence, knowing that your time is your own to offer freely. You make decisions with clarity, knowing that your actions align with both your balance sheet and your deepest values. This harmony creates a profound feeling of lightness. You are no longer chasing an external ideal. You are simply living an authentic, well-designed life. When wealth serves your joy, your life becomes a work of art, a beautiful, intentional expression of balance, dignity, and purpose. This is the enduring reward of independence. Not just having money, but having a life that is truly, elegantly your own, in all its financial security and deep emotional richness. Reflect on one current expense or commitment in your life that you maintain purely out of habit or obligation, but which brings you no genuine joy. What is the plan to gracefully reduce or eliminate that friction this week, using the liberated energy and resources to intentionally invest in a source of true personal fulfillment? Chapter 11. Claiming your space with confidence. Independence means more than just having control over your bank account. It means having full, sovereign control over yourself. It is the confident realization that you have the right to claim your space in the world, your physical space, your mental space, and your relational space, and to define the terms of your engagement with quiet authority. For the gracefully independent person, claiming space is not an aggressive act of taking, but a calm, elegant act of assertion. It means living authentically, making your choices visible, and holding your ground without feeling the need to apologize for your existence or your direction. This self-possession is the final layer of your security, ensuring that your foundation remains strong, even when challenged by external expectations. The silent erosion of space. Before you can claim your space, you must first recognize where it has been silently eroded. This often happens subtly, through the weight of social expectations and the pressure to maintain external harmony at the expense of internal balance. You lose mental space when you allow the opinions of others to constantly override your own values, forcing you to endlessly justify your choices, such as your chosen career path, your simple lifestyle, or your financial goals. You lose relational space when you allow the drama, demands, or emotional instability of others to become your primary responsibility. This excessive obligation drains your time and your focus, leaving you with little energy to dedicate to your own growth. You lose physical space when your environment is filled with things you don't use or need, or when your home is perpetually open to intrusions because you fear setting a firm boundary. Each compromise on your space is a small vote against your own sovereignty. The truly independent life demands that you reclaim these boundaries and ensure your personal sphere is protected and organized according to your own needs for peace and focus. The poise of non-apology. The fear of claiming space often manifests as the need to constantly apologize. We apologize for our choices, our priorities, our earnings, or our desire for quiet time. We feel we must soften the edges of our truth to keep the peace and maintain approval. But apologizing for your authentic self is the ultimate surrender of personal power. When you apologize for pursuing your independently defined wealth goals, you imply that your choices are flawed, inviting others to judge or derail your plans. The gracefully independent person operates from a place of non-apology. This is not arrogance. It is simply clear-headed self-respect. You simply state your boundary or your choice without defensive explanation. If a friend questions your decision to reduce social spending to focus on an investment goal, you don't launch into a lengthy defense of your budget. You simply state with poise, "This period is dedicated to building my financial foundation, and I'm very comfortable with that choice." This clarity is elegant. It respects the other person enough to give them the truth, and it respects yourself enough to stand by your decision without seeking their permission or validation. The power is in the confident simplicity of your statement, making your choices visible. Claiming your space requires making your independence visible. This means that your actions must consistently reflect the sovereign choices you have made about your life. If you have chosen a simple lifestyle, live it visibly. Do not hide your functional car or your well-loved wardrobe out of fear of being judged as unsuccessful by external standards. Your quiet contentment in your intentional life is the strongest statement you can make. If you have chosen a non-traditional career path that aligns with your joy, own it in conversations. Speak about your work with enthusiasm and clarity, defining its value on your own terms, not on its perceived prestige. When you live visibly and authentically, you clarify your boundaries for others without having to verbally enforce them constantly. People quickly learn what you value, what you will commit to, and what you will not tolerate. This clear social structure promotes harmonious interaction because everyone understands the rules of engagement. Your consistent truth becomes a form of social elegance. The assertion of financial independence. In practical terms, claiming your space requires strong, confident financial assertion, especially within partnerships. In a relationship, claiming your financial space means ensuring there is a clear, equitable balance of contribution and control. This means 1. maintaining your own financial competency, even if you pool resources. You should always know the full financial picture, and you should always be capable of managing your own life should the partnership structure change. 2. Ensuring your joint decisions are truly collaborative. You assert your voice and your long-term needs during financial planning sessions, insisting that the collective path respects your individually defined values. Your financial contribution is your right to an equal vote. 3. Having a space of private financial security, your own savings, your own investments, that serves as a psychological anchor. This fund acts as a profound source of peace, ensuring that your presence in the relationship is based entirely on love, not economic necessity. This assertion is an act of fairness. By claiming your full space, you ensure the partnership operates from a foundation of mutual respect and equality, which is the only truly balanced and sustainable way to build a life together. Living with undiminished grace. The final mastery of claiming your space is the ability to live with strength without losing your grace. The powerful person does not need to be loud or dominant. True confidence is calm. Your goal is to become the center of gravity in your own life, the point of composure from which all balanced decisions are made. When you walk into a room, you do so knowing your financial foundations are solid, your emotional boundaries are clear, and your values are your guide. This internal knowing creates an undeniable aura of serenity and competence. You do not demand respect. You simply project a state that commands it. This quiet, assured competence is the ultimate elegance. It allows you to move through life authentically, making bold choices and holding firm boundaries, while remaining open, kind, and fully present for the connections that truly matter. You stand strong, centered, and entirely on your own terms. Think about one area of your life, a recurring conversation, a physical space, or a boundary, where you frequently apologize or shrink your truth to accommodate others. What is the single, poised statement or action you can execute this week to gracefully claim that space back, living authentically without apology? Chapter 12. Living with Graceful Independence. We have traveled a path together, one that moved away from the discomfort of external dependence and toward the quiet certainty of self-reliance. We defined wealth on our own terms, learned to value composure over chaos, and built strength not with hardness, but with a flexible, elegant resilience. This final chapter is not about reaching a static finish line. It is about embracing a new way of being. It is the integration of all these lessons so that independence is no longer a struggle you pursue, but a natural, confident, and harmonious state you inhabit every single day. This is the mastery of graceful independence, the art of living fully, freely, and beautifully on your own terms. The integrated self. The core of graceful independence is the integrated self, a person whose financial security, emotional composure, and personal values are in perfect, self-sustaining alignment. In this state of mastery, the concepts we discuss no longer feel like separate disciplines. They merge into a single, elegant philosophy of life. Financial balance becomes fluidity. Your money management is no longer a source of stress, but a flowing system that automatically supports your values. Your savings are automated, your spending is intentional, and your emergency fund acts as an ever-present reservoir of calm. You handle transactions with a sense of ease, knowing that your systems are strong enough to withstand any turbulence. Emotional resilience becomes poise. You react less and respond more. When faced with professional or personal challenges, your first impulse is not panic or retreat, but a measured pause. You consult your internal compass, trusting the judgment you have spent months cultivating. Your external demeanor remains composed, reflecting the deep, steady peace you have built within. Relationship strength becomes reciprocity. You approach every connection, friendship, partnership, community, as a complete person meeting other complete people. Your presence is an offering of love and support, not a demand for validation or a plea for rescue. You set boundaries not as walls, but as clear, respectful frameworks for balanced interaction, ensuring that all your relationships are based on mutual dignity. This integration creates a profound feeling of lightness. You move through the world unburdened by debt, unconstrained by fear, and unconcerned with external judgment. Your independence is your freedom to simply be your authentic self. The daily practice of elegance. Graceful independence is maintained through daily, conscious practice, much like an artist hones their craft. It is the commitment to small, elegant actions that reinforce your sovereignty. Practice intentionality over impulse. Every day, choose intention over impulse. Before a purchase, pause and ask, does this align with my definition of wealth and simplicity? Before a commitment, pause and ask, does this honor my time and my internal balance? This discipline transforms your life from a series of reactions into a beautifully curated design. Practice non-apology as a default. Assert your personal boundaries and your aligned choices, financial or otherwise, without seeking permission or offering lengthy defenses. Simply state your truth with calm conviction. This reinforces your self-respect and teaches the world to honor your space. Practice generous detachment. You have built your own foundation. Now, use that stability to be generous without being entangled. You can offer help, support, and compassion freely, knowing that the recipient's outcome will not compromise your own security. This detachment is the highest form of selfless giving, allowing you to connect deeply without the strain of dependency. These small, consistent actions maintain the perfect equilibrium of your life. They ensure that you do not slip back into the comfortable but constricting habits of leaning too heavily or trying too hard. Your legacy of poise. The ultimate measure of your graceful independence is not the size of your portfolio, but the quality of your personal legacy, the elegant example you set for yourself and for those you care about. You show the world that strength does not require aggression, it requires composure. You demonstrate that security does not come from isolating yourself, but from building an internal foundation that allows you to connect more openly. By living with graceful independence, you reject the unbalanced cultural message that money is the sole metric of success. You instead define a new standard. Success is the harmony between security and joy. Your life becomes an aesthetic expression of balance. There is beauty in your simple, intentional spending, clarity in your well-defined goals, and dignity in your refusal to be manipulated by fear. This poise, this centeredness, is the quiet power that truly changes the world around you. It invites others to seek their own balance and find their own serene confidence. The journey concludes here, not with an end, but with a beginning. You have the tools, you have the clarity, and you have forged the strength. You are no longer searching for security. You are the source of it. You are ready to step fully into the world, standing strong on your own elegant terms. Take a deep breath and acknowledge the strength and balance you have built. What is the single, most important commitment you will make starting today to live not just near your authentic, balanced self, but fully and gracefully as that independent person?